I think any change will actually help Hong Kong to move forward to the future. And that part is actually exciting.
Hong Kong has a better opportunity, I think.
So we could see the boom of economy very soon.
Hong Kong will become a better place for the future.
Hello and welcome to today's special program of Hong Kong SAR Chief Executive Election on CGTN Global Business. I'm Kate Kui. Well, today is a big day for Hong Kong. The city has elected its new chief executive candidate to succeed Carrie Lam. John Lee, a former Chief Secretary for Administration and Secretary for Security, has won 1,416 votes. If appointed by the central government, he will be the 6th Chief Executive of Hong Kong SAR. Well, Hong Kong is gradually returning to normal economic and social order after the precise and differentiated prevention of the pandemic. What should we expect from this new government, and how should Hong Kong stay competitive as the world's freest economy? Well, today we have a panel of young entrepreneurs from different sectors joining us from Hong Kong, and we are going to hear their perspectives. Well, some panelists also joined us last year for our Innovate Forum, which was jointly hosted with Hong Kong Next Foundation to promote innovation and entrepreneurship in Hong Kong. So let me just introduce our guests today. Well, joining us today are Raymond Zhang, Vice President of Huajing Society; Simon Yang, Founder and CEO of I Embrace Limited, who is going to join us slightly late today; while Marvin Ma, Co-founder and CEO of Bones Tech; and also Shang Li, Founder and CEO of E3A Healthcare. Welcome, gentlemen. Let me ask you this question. How do you feel? The voting is just out, 1,416. So Raymond, tell us, how do people feel? How do you feel?
We are actually very excited to look into the new administration because there will be a lot of things the new administration can do for Hong Kong, and we hope together with the electoral reform and the new EC of Hong Kong, and Hong Kong will become a better place for the future.
Right. He rather obtained a very high number of the votes. But John Lee's background is slightly different from his predecessors. His experience is mostly on the security side. So, what's your comment on that?
I think the new administration, even though the CEO is of the security background, but he is also very experienced in the overall running of the administrative matters of the Hong Kong government, because he has been in the government for a very long time. I think the new administration will put a great effort into many issues to resolve Hong Kong's deep level problem, and to connect with China even more tighter, and at the same time to be more open to the international business society. I actually through the previous social activities and and economic communication, etc., and some of the events, I actually come across with him previously several times. I find he's a very disciplined, very positive person, and with the open mind. So, and has a lot of tenacity. So I'm actually very confident about his leadership to focus especially on the economic priority of Hong Kong, and also improve the youth mobility to upstream and to tackle the deep root problem in the economic structure.
Marvin, are you familiar with John Lee? What is your impression upon him?
Yeah, thanks, Kate.
Right.
So I actually we do have a lot of the communication with John Lee, but actually I heard a lot of very positive policy he proposed. Like he would like to promote the R&D and also the healthcare system. I think is the very key point for the Hong Kong right now.
Simon, is there anything out of your expectation? Are you excited?
I'm excited about the change. I think change is always good, but in a way that I think any change will actually help Hong Kong to move forward to the future. And that part is actually exciting.
What do you think are the most critical challenges that John Lee will face, assuming that he will be nominated and appointed by the central government as the chief executive?
I think the bipolar issue of Hong Kong, in which is becoming a global issue, in which things are becoming very critical. In other countries, is the same, and trying to reunite the government and the citizens to be able to find a common objective to move forward is actually the most important part to make Hong Kong successful.
Actually, there are quite a few deep-rooted problems in Hong Kong. For example, it's economic structure. The four traditional key industries, as we all know, has been played an influential role in Hong Kong economy for a long time.
Right.
For example, like financial services, tourism, etc. They contributed more than 55% of the GDP to the economy in the past. But as regional competition become increasingly fierce, they are gradually losing the edge. For instance, the number of employees in those industries dropped from 840,000 to under 700,000, right, in the past several years. So, on the other hand, new driver of economic growth are yet to emerge in Hong Kong. So this is just one example of the problem. And as you know, the housing problem, land problem, etc.
Simon, so what do you think needs to be changed to move forward?
In a way, I think is actually integrating to the global world, China or the rest of the world. That's actually one key element for Hong Kong to be successful. There's actually one major element that I think he needs to focus on. That's actually particularly true that I'm pretty sure all the other guests is facing the problem in which during the pandemic, everybody is getting used to working from home. So what does work mean? Is it work from home, work from offices? And it doesn't matter anymore. So if you actually doesn't matter, work is everywhere, then how do you preserve the middleman position of Hong Kong, which is actually outdated, in my opinion?
You mentioned the integration of Hong Kong into Chinese mainland and also into global dynamics. Some are saying in Hong Kong that Hong Kong integrating into China actually meaning that Hong Kong is moving away from globalization. What do you think?
In my opinion, that's actually not very true. The reason why is because China is part of the global world, and the representation of Chinese and the Chinese economy is growing. So there's always a saying, if you want to be a global company, it's not like 50% of your revenue coming out from overseas means you're global. If you really look at the GDP, the distribution of the world, actually you need to make sure that your global international market has to match up with the GDP of various countries in order to be true global. So I really think that in order to be a global player, you actually need to be able to play all around the world. So, and China is part of the world, so it's not a matter of a choice.
Right.
So you actually have to make it, yeah.
Right. So by integrating more with the Chinese mainland doesn't mean that Hong Kong is excluding itself from global system. Well, as a matter of fact, Hong Kong, New York is United States New York, but is also the world's New York. I think that's more or less an analogy. Do you still think Hong Kong is competitive nowadays, or becoming, or still the most competitive financial center globally, with all the challenges, between United States and China, the trade tension, and also with the challenge from pandemic globally?
We are facing many challenges. So the Hong Kong government is actively marketing Hong Kong's unique advantage to the rest of the world, and also actively, tighten its tie with the management. In fact, the basis has not changed. Hong Kong's legal environment provides a very solid foundation for its free market and competitive economy. Ownership rights are fully safeguarded as the spirit of contract is in the basic law. And we can make best out of Hong Kong's geographic and legal advantage, running business with people all over the world. Actually, that's the reason why we're here. And more importantly, since Hong Kong has the mainland as its hinterland, we can enjoy so much commercial opportunities by making the best, out of the policy of the one country, two system. So having a rapid expanding marketing in mainland, the future of Hong Kong is very promising. So the government needs to very actively marketing to the international business society.
Last but not the least, so gentlemen, I want your prospect on Hong Kong's economic growth going forward in the next several years. How do you project Hong Kong's economic growth? Marvin, why don't we start from you first?
Yeah, I also firmly believe that the R&D and also the startup will be the nice driver of Hong Kong, and we deeply hope we can have the same, open and transparent platform for us to focus more on the technology and innovation.
Quite confident. So after the reopening of Hong Kong, so we could see the boom of economy very soon.
I actually would like to emphasize, rather than focus on the number, the growth number of GDP, we should focus on the quality of the GDP and the diversification of the GDP growth. Because in order to resolve Hong Kong's deep-rooted problems, such as housing, such as the youth, career option, etc., actually, government should more emphasize on for example, investments into a wide range of local sectors, including public housing that cannot be fostered by market principle alone. So I think the quality and the diversification of the GDP is very important.
Right, Simon, your view?
I actually agree with Raymond. We have been focusing a lot on finance and property over the last 20 years. And the upward mobility that Raymond mentioned was actually something that drives all our dream in the past. But because of the very, very high salary benchmark for the banks, that is very difficult for other industry to grow because you can't find talent. Right. It's all hired by the finance people. And you don't have a dream when you actually can't afford to have your own shelter. So I think the government needs to decrease and eliminate the silos, the barriers of all these, and let the creativity of all people around the world to come to Hong Kong to contribute and make a difference. I used to run a publicly listed company, and we always said that it's kind of amazing that you actually can have one of the biggest tech market in the world, including Shenzhen, in the vicinity. You can have a meeting. You can drive down to Hong Kong to do a results announcement press conference, and then drive to Shekou to have a beach swim before you do a hike, right? We are very, very unique in the world. It's just like US combining East and West Coast. And this is something that actually I think this unique offering to the world shall be something that the government treasured, the people will treasure, and then drive to a better future.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Well, Hong Kong should definitely leverage its unique competitive advantages, including geographic location, talents pool, as well as policy advantages for a brighter future. Well, this is our special program of Hong Kong SAR Chief Executive election on CGTN Global Business. I'm Kate Kui. Bye for now.